Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So, as you already know, this is Somerville Serpents. I am Tyreek. Today, huge shout out to Hardwire Exotics. My man Tony over there. Dude's killing it right now, man. He's producing some heat. Absolutely incredible stuff. You guys go check him out. He has a YouTube channel, obviously, Amorph Market, has his own website. Creating some crazy stuff right now. His videos are fire. So again, huge shout out to you. Today, we are going to be talking about setting up our egg boxes. How to properly set up your egg boxes so you do not drown your eggs or kill your eggs, so you don't dehydrate your eggs and have them dry up on you. There are many ways to do this. Just like the saying, there are many ways to skin a cat. There's not just one way of doing this, but you want to do it properly. At the end of the day, you want to do this properly so that you get the best results. You want to make sure those eggs survive the 55, 60-day incubation period and you produce healthy babies. So with that being said, I'm going to show you guys the first way to do this. So you want to get something vermiculite or perlite. As you can see in this egg box, it's already set up. I used a combination of the two of them. There is vermiculite and perlite in that. At the end of the day, it is whatever you're comfortable with, whatever works for you. There are other ways. I've seen people just use sponges and water. Like my man Tony over here at Hardwire Exotics. He used the cocoa chip and water. But everything is a balance. Everything is a balance. You don't want too much water or not enough water. So I'm going to show you guys from my personal experience and from the research that I've done, watching other channels and seeing other people do this, one of the best ways, in my opinion, to set up your egg boxes. So first off, right off the bat, you're going to get one of these 6-ounce tubs. You can get a 12-ounce tub. I mean, again, it's preference, whatever you're comfortable with using. We're going to throw this on the scale here. Check out the weight. So it's tiered right there, 0 grams. This is going to be a 1-to-1 ratio for the way that I'm doing it right now. So you're going to take your vermiculite. You're going to pour it in your egg box. You don't want too much. You don't want too little. So this is really light. We got to get at least 50 grams in there for this to read. Oh, we got way more than 50. All right, so there's 200 grams, 250 grams of vermiculite here. That's a little more than we wanted. So what we're going to do is actually pull some of this out because you need room for your eggs so that they're not hitting the top of the top of your egg box, hitting the bottom side of the lid. So that's about good. So we got 200 grams here. We got 200 grams of vermiculite. 150 grams here. Okay. Nope, 200 grams. Sorry. The scale's jumping all over the place. So again, like I said, a 1-to-1 ratio. So 200 grams of vermiculite. You're going to take that. You're going to start adding in your water very slowly. Don't just pour it, dump it out. You know what I'm saying? You're going to want to try to get this as accurate as possible. So you start dumping your water in. Same thing. Mix it around. Don't just pour it in one area. Or I guess you can, technically, right there. So we put a little bit more. That just jumped up to 450 grams. So there's about 250 grams of water to the 200 grams of vermiculite. And like I said, you want close to a 1-to-1 ratio. If it's a little bit more, a little bit less, it's not going to kill you. At the end of the day, this is what you're going to want to see. So, okay, so this is what you're going to want to see. You're going to take your egg box, the 200 grams of vermiculite, 200 grams, 250 grams of water. You're going to start mixing it. You're going to want to get a nice mix on. Now, if you guys can see this, the color change of the vermiculite, it's a little bit darker from the water being in it. You want to get all those dry clumps in there. Now, at the end of the day, so the way we're setting up this first egg box is if you want to be able to put your eggs right in the vermiculite or right in the perlite. If you don't want to have to use the easy hatch trays or the light diffusers or any other sort of barrier, and you want to either bury your eggs or sit your eggs right on top of your vermiculite or perlite, you're going to want this a little bit damp, but not soaking wet. So as you can see, this mixture here, it's now mixed up pretty good. This is why it has to be very precise when you're doing it this way if you're not going to be using easy hatch trays or the light diffuser. And as you can see, I can grab this. It clumps up in my hand. It can form a nice little ball. But if you squeeze it, there's no running water out of it. So it's holding the moisture in the vermiculite perfectly. Like I said, a mixture like this, a 1-to-1 ratio, or even a little bit above, like I said, we put 250 grams of water to 200 grams of vermiculite. It is still going to come out nice and moist. It's going to clump up perfectly like you want to see here. And there's going to be no running water. This is safe to put your eggs in, just like this. So we do have some hatchling boxes set up just like this. We do have some set up the other way I'm about to show you. So if you give me 1 second, we'll be right back, and I'll show you a second way to do this. Okay, so egg box number 2. We're going to take a look at this box right here. It was already set up. So again, easy hatch tray in here. As you can see, this is a lot wetter. If I push down on here, you can see the water starting to rise through it, which again is perfectly fine. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to take your vermiculite, you're going to take your perlite, you're going to put it in one of your egg boxes. You are going to take your water, you're going to just pour it in. You're going to pour it in, pour it in, pour it in, pour it in, until you see the level of water start to rise to almost about the top. You don't want it coming up over. You don't want to see the whole bottom just filled with water and all the perlite and vermiculite floating above it. That means you have a little bit too much, especially if you're putting the weight of the eggs on top of it. It's going to sink down a little bit. That water is going to rise. It could potentially hit the bottom of your eggs and drown them. So you're going to want to make sure that you put a good amount of water in there. But again, like I said, not too much to the point where the vermiculite's floating up off of the bottom of the tub that you're using. And again, just as a safety net, we do have a light diffuser here in the bottom, just to give it a little extra barrier so that our eggs are safe. And then we take our easy hatch tray, we throw that on top of that, just to make sure even when we put the eggs in there, there's no way with this even sinking down a little bit that the water's going to rise up and touch the bottom of our eggs. One of the things that I saw in a nerd video, Kevin was saying, the more full the box, the better the humidity, the better your eggs will probably do. So, I mean, I'm going to have to put that theory to test this year. We're going to see what the difference is if we use an egg box with only a little bit of perlite vermiculite mix and water, and see with one with a fuller egg box of vermiculite and perlite, and see if there's any difference. he was also putting his eggs right into the substrate. So that might be an experiment that we do too. That's not something that we're going to do this year with just 2 or 3 clutches that we're going to be having. But eventually, somewhere down the line, maybe next year, the year after that, maybe we'll play around and look at maybe some maternal incubation or different ways to incubate, whether we're burying them, just laying them on top of the substrate, using the Easy Hatch trays or the light diffusers or anything else. So, okay, anyways, I digress. Final step, either way, whether you're doing it with the 1-to-1 ratio or you are doing it with just pouring your water in and putting your light diffuser or your Easy Hatch trays on top, at the end of that stage, you're going to want to get yourself some press and seal. This is to trap the humidity in there with the eggs. You take your press and seal. After you're all done putting on that mix, you're going to press down on the edges. This is going to, like I said, seal all the humidity in there. About every 2 weeks or so is what we're going to be doing. You go down, you check your hatchling bins, your egg bins, excuse me. Make sure there's not a bunch of precipitation built up on top. Make sure there's no water from the top of this dripping down on your eggs. Because again, like I said, eggs are pretty hardy, but you want to have a nice balance. You don't want a bunch of condensation dripping on your eggs constantly. So like I said, once every 2 weeks, you go down, you just check it, make sure there's not a bunch of condensation built up there. If there is, you pull that press and seal off, put a new piece on as quick as you can, put them back in the incubator. Now we are expecting eggs here in the next couple of weeks. So for me, I'm a psycho, so my incubator's been running for the last 3-4 months, not even knowing if we were going to get eggs or not. I wanted to be extra careful, make sure that all our egg boxes were up to temperature. But technically, the rule is 2 to 3 weeks before you're expecting eggs, you want to turn your incubator on. You want to get these egg boxes built, get them in the incubator so they can rise to the right temperature. So that way, the day that you do have eggs, you're not scrambling to do it. You're not taking hours to get your incubator up to temperature. God forbid there's any problems that go wrong with your incubator. Hopefully within that 2 to 3 week time span, you'll end up finding out and you can fix it or get yourself a new incubator if you have to. Last case scenario, so that way you can still incubate your eggs properly and not have to maternally incubate. So yeah, that's really it. There's many different ways. These are not the only 2 ways. Like I said, I've seen people just use sponges and waters and put the light diffusers of the Easy Hatch trays on top. I've seen Tony personally use cocoa bedding and water and put something on top and then put the eggs in. Some people decide to pull their eggs apart. Some people decide to leave them together as a clutch and just lay them on top of the vermiculite or perlite. I'm not sure what we're going to be doing here yet. I do think if I get to the eggs soon enough, I will probably pull them apart, use the Easy Hatch tray. Obviously, we're going to go through candling, making sure the embryo's on top and everything else. But yeah, anyways, like I said, many different ways to skin a cat. Here's 2 of them. You need to find out what works best for you, what works best for the incubator that you have, and what you're most comfortable with. But with that being said, I hope you got something out of this video. If you liked it, if you found it informational, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next time.